Hello, my name is Frank Scalise, and I write crime fiction, mostly under the name Frank Zafiro, and most of my crime fiction is set in either Spokane or a fictional version of Spokane called River City. One of the nice things about the River City series for people who live in Spokane is that a lot of the locales are real, and so they're able to envision their city while they're reading this fictional book. I have been a law enforcement officer for 19 years now, and so I try to draw from those experiences to make these stories as realistic as possible. But of course, whenever you write fiction, things are heavily dramatized. So I just wanted to share the series with you real quick. The first book in the series is called Under a Raging Moon. Under a Raging Moon is about a robber who is becoming progressively more violent, hitting convenience stores. And it's a very patrol-centric book. It's one of the few crime fiction books out there that I'm aware of that focuses almost exclusively on the patrol officers, those officers who are in uniform, who are trying to stop this robber from hitting convenience stores. All of the River City novels are an ensemble cast scenario, kind of like a television show. Different from book to book, different characters will rise to a starring role or to a co-star role or even a support role, depending on what's going on in their life and what the problem is that's being addressed. For instance, in the second book, Heroes Often Fail, a 6-year-old girl is kidnapped in broad daylight, and that's a scenario where it's all hands on deck. Detectives, officers, the brass of the department, everybody going forward with great effort to try to locate this girl as quickly as possible before it's too late. The third book in the series is called Beneath a Weeping Sky. And Beneath the Weeping Sky is about a serial rapist who is out committing sexual assault, and he is becoming progressively more violent as well. And obviously the concern there is that he will progress from assault to sexual homicide. This is not based on the South Hill rapist case, but certainly there is some basis in our local history for that kind of event taking place. The fourth book in the series is called And Every Man Has to Die. And Every Man Has to Die is focused on the influx of Russian gangs in River City and what the detectives and the officers do to try to counteract this new type of criminal. Those are the 4 books that are in the River City series proper, but I've also published a few dozen short stories through the years that are set in River City, and those have been collected into anthologies. The first one is called Dead Even. Dead Even contains short stories focused on about 5 different characters. Their short stories are grouped by character, so a character might have 2, 3, 4, 5 short stories underneath their section that are all set in River City, and many of them weave in and out of those 4 novels, the events that took place in those novels in small ways. The other short story collections are called No Good Deed. No Good Deed follows the same mold as Dead Even in that it's broken up by character. There's about 5 different characters, again, that have several short stories for each character. Then there were the oddballs that didn't fit into that category, the one-offs, and I collected those in a collection called The Cleaner. Both Dead Even, No Good Deed, and The Cleaner is the name of one of the short stories in the collection, and these are all single one-offs, that they didn't really fit in anywhere else. I do have some books that are connected to River City. They're River City books, just not part of the series proper. While the series itself is an ensemble cast, as I mentioned, this book, Waist Deep, is a first-person mystery, and it focuses on a character who, in the second River City book, Heroes Often Fail, commits a very tragic error. And the book Waist Deep takes place 10 years after that, and it's really that character's attempt to find redemption for that mistake he made back 10 years ago in Heroes Often Fail. Another standalone book is called The Last Horseman. Sounds like a Western, but it's actually not. The Last Horseman is about 4 vigilante police officers who are ex-police officers who have formed a group. They call themselves the Four Horsemen, and their role, as they see it, is to deal with those criminals who slip through the cracks somehow, who are guiltier than sin but get off on a technicality. They go and render judgment on those individuals. This story picks up about a dozen years after that group formed, and there's only a couple people left in it, and one of them tells the other, our main character, that he's done for reasons that you can read about in the book, but it leaves the main character, Sandy Banks, as the last horseman. And he decides he wants to retire, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work out that way for him, thanks to the FBI and the person who's the inside man and a few other complications. I've also written a couple of books under my real name, Frank Scalise. Both of them are centered around one of my passions, and that is hockey. This first one is an adult novel. By adult, I mean grown up, not erotica. But it's a grown-up novel called All That Counts. And All That Counts is about a 30 or 40-ish guy who plays rec league hockey. And he's reached a point in his life where he just kind of feels like, I wasn't an astronaut. I didn't get to be the king of the world. I'm kind of in a humdrum life here. So he's having a little bit of a midlife crisis, and he decides to change things up a bit, and he becomes a goaltender. Anybody familiar with hockey will realize that's a big change. It's like going from being a quarterback to a linebacker, I suppose, in football or something like that. And so there's some comedy in there as he figures out that it's not as easy as it looks, and he's also working on still playing for his regular team. It's probably be a rated R movie for language because we all know what locker rooms are like, but it's mostly good-hearted. And at its core, it's a little bit of a love story. It's about what matters in life, his wife, his friends, his own life. I've written a children's book for boys, 9 to 12-ish, called The Hardest Hit. And The Hardest Hit is about 11-year-old Sam Parker, who discovers in his first year of Pee Wee, when body checking begins, that body checking is not as much fun as he thought it was going to be. He takes a pretty hellacious hit and actually develops a concussion, something I know cowboys in the audience are pretty familiar with. And he, at the same time, learns that his parents are getting divorced. And so it's a double whammy for him, and causes him a lot of consternation, even to the point that his best friend, the goaltender, Jill, gets a little upset with him too. And really the beginning of the book has a saying that says, fall down, get up, fall down, get up. Life is hockey, hockey is life. And I think rodeo plays the same way. You get thrown off, you get back on that horse, that bull, whatever it is. And that's sort of the idea behind this book, is that you never give up. You can always deal with what comes your way and make the very best out of it. And so that's most of the books I've written. I do have probably another 3 crime novels coming out in the first half of 2012. Blood on Blood, which is a book I wrote with Jim Wilski. That is a hard-boiled, gritty crime novel. Same thing with a book called Some Degree of Murder that I wrote with Colin Conway, also a very gritty book. And then I wrote one by myself again called At This Point in My Life, about a retired detective right after he retires from the police department and gets caught up in a case that is a little bit surprising.